Most people talk about systems as if they fail at the top. They blame markets, timing, saturation, or competition. But systems rarely collapse from the outside. They fail from the inside, not because the idea was wrong, but because the parts were wrong. Income systems don't break at the vision level. They break at the component level, where invisible weaknesses quietly compound. A system is not a goal, it is an arrangement of actions, incentives, flows, and conversions. When income stalls, it is almost never because the system doesn't work. It is because one or more components are misaligned. And misaligned parts don't stop systems. They distort them. They leak energy, attention, and value until growth becomes mathematically impossible. Most people never learn to see components. They see activities. They see posting, building, selling, automating. But activities are not components. Components are the specific roles each action plays in the flow of value. Attention generation is a component. Trust transfer is a component. Conversion is a component. Retention is a component. When these are blurred together, diagnosis becomes impossible. This is why so many people feel like they've tried everything while never actually testing anything. Testing only happens when a single component is adjusted while the rest remains stable. That stability is what turns results into information. Without it, outcomes are emotional. You feel them, but you can't read them. And unreadable outcomes can't teach you how to build. At the component level, systems reveal their true logic. You start seeing that income is not one event, but a chain. One part creates attention. Another shapes perception. Another transfers belief. Another facilitates exchange. Another extends lifetime value. Each has its own physics. Each has its own failure modes. And none of them can compensate for the weakness of another. A system with strong traffic and weak trust will feel busy but fragile. A system with strong trust and weak conversion will feel meaningful but unprofitable. A system with strong conversion and weak retention will feel exciting but exhausting. These experiences confuse people because the system is partially working. But partial function is often more dangerous than total failure because it hides the true problem. Most systems don't fail loudly. They fail subtly. They grow slowly, inconsistently, or unsustainably. And because something is happening, the builder assumes the structure is sound. But what's really happening is imbalance. One component is carrying weight it was never designed to carry. Over time, that imbalance becomes strain, and strain eventually becomes collapse. When people say they're burned out, they often aren't tired of work. They are tired of compensation. One component is overworked while another is underbuilt. They are producing attention without conversion, or closing sales without retention, or creating content without ownership. Burnout is not an energy problem. It is a structural misallocation of effort across components. At the component level, income becomes engineering instead of hope. You stop asking whether the system works and start asking which part is underperforming. You stop replacing models and start reinforcing mechanisms. You stop chasing outcomes and start strengthening relationships between parts. That shift alone moves you out of motivational cycles and into structural development. Components fail for specific reasons. Some are too weak to carry the load. Some are too complex to stabilize. Some are dependent on moods instead of mechanics. Some are borrowed from contexts they don't belong to. When a component is wrong, the system must compensate elsewhere. And compensation always has a cost, usually paid in time, energy, or scalability. This is why simplification is not aesthetic. It is structural. The fewer roles a component is forced to play, the more precisely it can be built. When one action is expected to attract, persuade, convert, and retain, it will underperform at all four. But when roles are separated, each part can be designed around a single, measurable responsibility. At the component level, clarity increases speed, not because you work faster, but because you stop misdirecting effort. You know where to improve. You know what not to touch. You know which numbers actually matter, and that allows iteration to become intelligent instead of reactive. Growth stops being a mood and starts being a series of deliberate structural upgrades. Most people upgrade surfaces. They change branding, platforms, niches, or content styles. But surfaces sit on top of components. If the underlying part is flawed, surface upgrades only make the flaw more efficient. Better content feeding a broken conversion component only accelerates disappointment. Better offers feeding weak trust only intensify resistance. The pain grows because the machine speeds up. When components are understood, progress becomes quiet. You strengthen one part and watch the entire system respond. You fix a handoff, and downstream results improve without additional effort. You adjust positioning, and conversion rises without more traffic. These experiences feel almost unnatural at first because most people are trained to expect growth to always feel heavy. Component-level thinking also protects you from distraction. New tools and tactics stop looking like opportunities and start looking like potential components. You don't ask, "Can this make money?" You ask, "Which role would this serve and what would it replace?" If it doesn't strengthen an existing part or clarify a missing one, it becomes noise by definition. Over time, you begin to design systems instead of assembling them. You don't stack methods. You allocate functions. You don't chase leverage. You build load-bearing parts. And when each component is built to do one clear job, the system gains something rare: internal coherence. That coherence is what allows income to scale without personality, pressure, or constant invention. This is where systems stop feeling like projects and start feeling like organisms. You sense when a part is underfed. You feel when a handoff is breaking. You recognize when growth is structural versus when it is situational. That sensitivity is not intuition. It is familiarity. It comes from spending enough time at the component level to understand how value actually moves. Most systems fail at the component level because most builders never go there. They stay at the idea level, the tactic level, the motivation level, but income is not created at those levels. It is created where attention becomes trust, where trust becomes exchange, and where exchange becomes continuity. That is where systems are either born or silently weakened. The work now is not to find a better system. It is to see your current one clearly enough to deconstruct it, to identify its true parts, to measure their performance, to relieve the overloaded and reinforce the fragile. Because once your components are aligned, growth stops being something you chase. It becomes something your structure naturally produces.